I so don't want to stand up here right now, like following that. Jesus Christ. So organizations today are full of really shitty leaders. And I say that with evidence. I was one of those leaders. And when I was running a division at Autodesk, which was back then a $200 million division, grew to $300 million, it was in a real crisis point. The market had said, you're considered a value stock, not a high performance stock. And the board had really said, you have one chance to come back and really show us a plan that will put you back on growth. And I was running the #1 division and asked to be part of the core team. And about 15 of us spent a lot of time together trying to put together that plan. Here's where I become the villain of the story. So I did not agree with someone else's direction of where they wanted to spend money. And this person basically, as in a lot of organizations, somebody else has responsible for money and somebody else is responsible for revenue. And at one point, when I'm in the boardroom, the CEO of the company, then Carol Bartz, who had since gone on and run Yahoo, says, so do you agree with the spend? Now, for weeks, I had gone around and said, I don't really like that plan. Could you change it in this way? And she basically said no. And I was, kind of like trying. I was cajoling. I was a little bit sort of like trying to do a little bit of spin in the hallway, trying to get other people to convince her. And so the moment came when the question got asked to me. And I sat there and thought, what is the right answer? Because I don't agree by any stretch. And I sat there and thought about lying. I thought about doing a pass and saying, oh, I'm sure it'll work out. But I said, no, I disagree with that plan. I've disagreed with that plan for several months. And I did the full-on corporate takedown. All the leaders of the organization, the board listening, basically saying why I didn't believe in that plan. The board applauded the plan. We ended up getting it approved, and it ended up growing the company. But what I lost in that moment was an inability to kind of go back to the team because the team had seen that I had sacrificed them in the process. And a couple days later, Carol Bartz called me and said, I absolutely believe in every single thing you do, except for the fact that your team no longer believes in you. And so I'm going to make you the sacrificial pawn. You're going to get fired. And but what makes the story more poignant, at least to me, is the person that I did this little corporate takedown, third-year-old sort of version, the thing you might do in third grade that you do in corporations now, the takedown, sort of corporate trip, was someone who had been my very best friend. And when I had run my first marathon, Cal International Marathon, she was the person who had been ahead of me by about half an hour and run back and gotten the crowd to cheer for me while I was running my last mile in. So this was a truly good friend. And yet we couldn't find a way to come together. And so the reason I'm glad I got fired is because, first of all, I think it's an important lesson for us not to let asshole behavior continue on in organizations. Bleep, that was bleep for the video. Bleep. But also because it gave me a real opportunity to start asking a different question. Because I think a lot of organizational stuff is about win-lose and about having the right idea, not about, and sort of getting the right results, independently of the people and process. And it got me really asking a question, because that's what I'd been sort of challenged with, is if I have to choose between results and people, I'm going to choose results. And what I started asking a question of is it possible to hold results and people and process as a question? Is it possible to hold all those three things in balance together? And the process of asking that question got me to start working with teams in different ways. And it got me to start actually thinking about how to get people to co-own a solution in such a way that they make something a reality. That led to what was my first book, and which was really the journey of 11 years of coming to an understanding of what that is. And then since then, going on and thinking about how do we actually change the culture of organizations not to be so win-lose, not about domination over others, which is the predominant culture of most organizations. Winning is about one party winning over another. But how do we have power by what we create together, more as equals and less as hierarchical? And the biggest lesson, and the one I want to pass on in this moment, is to think about all the moments of regret and failure, and to think what is the inherent question or tension that was left unresolved. Because in that tension lies a new process, a new set of things that you can pursue. And actually the reason I want to share this story where I'm the villain of the story is just to say I'm really looking forward to learning your questions for the next week and weekend, and exploring what those questions should be between us. Thank you.
Poignant.